Hey guys, welcome to our weekly news show here on Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb, your host, and it's definitely been an interesting week here in India's startup ecosystem because Delhi, according to the economic survey, is the startup capital of India now, not Bengaluru as many people would have expected. We've also got the Union Budget 2022 and its impact on India's startup ecosystem. We also have Ola Store, which I didn't personally use. I don't know about you guys, but it's being rebranded now to Ola Dash, the same way that Grofers was rebranded to Blinkit. We've also got the situation with Ashnir Grover going from bad to worse, unfortunately. And then, of course, also too, we have India's fifth startup unicorn of 2022. And we're going to be talking about all of these things and more coming up right after this. All right, so first up in the news, Delhi has apparently become India's new startup capital, according to the economic survey of 2021 to 2022. Now, of course, the question here is, how do they arrive at this conclusion? Well, between April of 2019 and December of 2021, Bengaluru added 4,514 new startups, whereas Delhi, on the other hand, added over 5,000 startups. Now, as somebody who's lived in both Delhi and Bengaluru, and I love Delhi, it's one of my favorite cities in India, I lived there for more than a year, but I still think of Bengaluru as the startup capital of India. I don't know, it's just my personal opinion. It's the Silicon Valley of India. It's got lots of VCs and accelerators and incubators. And not to say that those aren't there in Delhi, there's tons of them. But I do think that in that same time period, Bengaluru produced more than double the amount of unicorns that Delhi did, which I think is an important data point. I don't know, maybe the economic survey didn't take that into consideration, but I do think that's very important. It means that those companies were able to achieve valuations of more than $1 billion. But either way, guys, this is a win-win. It doesn't matter. It's not a competition. It doesn't matter north, south. Let's not think that way. This is all just benefiting India in general. The more startups we have, the better it is for everybody. All right, next up in the news, things are going from bad to worse right now for Ashnir Grover. So in a previous news video, we talked about how he was taking a voluntary leave of absence. Now his wife, who also works at BharatPe, is doing the same thing. And the company has announced that they're going to be doing an independent audit of all of their internal processes and systems now. And Ashnir Grover is hiring a legal firm to protect his interests and reputation at BharatPe. Now, I want you guys to take this next piece of information with a big grain of salt, because it's not confirmed, this is just according to media reports, but Ashnir Grover and his wife are allegedly being investigated now for financial fraud at BharatPe. And of course, as we all know, BharatPe is not just a unicorn startup, they're also set to take over PMC Bank. So any kind of financial fraud within the company could actually have a larger impact on India's banking space as a whole. All right, next up in the news, let's talk a little bit about Ola Store being rebranded now to Ola Dash. So back in 2015, Ola had launched this hyper-local grocery delivery service called Ola Store, and they had to shut that down in 2016 because the Indian market just wasn't ready to start ordering groceries online. But of course, that changed with the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And so in 2021, Ola resurrected Ola Store, and now they're rebranding it to Ola Dash, the same way that Grofers has rebranded to Blinkit in the wake of the impact that's been created by Zepto on the online grocery delivery space here in India. So Ola Dash is currently available in 9 cities across India. They have a network of over 200 dark stores, but they're going to be doubling down on this business now. They want to expand to 20 cities in the next 6 months and expand their dark store network to 500 stores. And just to give you guys a bird's eye perspective on this space right now, who are the players, who's competing with who, Reliance is backing Dunzo, Zomato is backing Blinkit, and Swiggy and Zepto are both busy raising millions of dollars from VCs in order to compete with these two. So yeah, things are definitely heating up in this space right now, more than ever before. And I'm curious to know from you guys, who do you think is gonna win? Who is gonna be the victor in this race to capture India's instant online grocery delivery market? Let me know what your thoughts are in a comment down below. All right, next up in the news, let's talk a little bit about the Union Budget 2022, because there's a couple of things that are relevant for Indian startups here. So first of all, startups that were incorporated between the 1st of April of 2016 and the 31st of March of 2022 were eligible for a tax holiday, meaning that they don't need to pay any tax on profits for 3 consecutive years out of the first 10 years of their operations if their revenues were less than 25 crore rupees. Secondly, investors, startup founders, and employees who own ESOPs will now have to pay less tax on their startup investments as the long-term capital gains surcharge is now capped at 15%. So this surcharge is basically a tax on top of the tax that you already have to pay, and this can go as high as 37% in some cases, but now it'll be limited to 15%. So in other words, the total tax paid on these investments is going to come down from 28.5% to 23.92%, which of course is good news for everybody, as it's going to drive more investments into startups. Then thirdly, the government has announced the Drone Shakti scheme to promote drones as a service to strengthen India's drone industry. Then fourthly, they're going to be focusing on agri-tech investments through NABARD. And then fifthly, they're going to announce a special policy for battery swapping for EVs to promote interoperability through standardization. Alright, moving on to some acquisition news now. Cloud kitchen startup Cure Foods has acquired another cloud kitchen startup, Mavrix Platforms, making Cure Foods the largest fresh food kitchen operator in the country. With this acquisition, Cure Foods is going to gain access to Mavrix's 50 outlets across brands like Great India Khichdi, Canteen Central, Meal Studio, Home Plate, Zippy Bowls, and Happy Fix. This means that Cure Foods now has 125 kitchens across 12 cities, making them the second largest cloud kitchen player in the country after Rebel Foods, who has 350 kitchens across 45 cities. Alright, moving on to some funding news now, and this is probably one that we should have covered last week, but we just didn't get the news in time to squeeze it into the video, so we're going to be talking about it today. India's fifth startup unicorn, social commerce startup DealShare. They've raised $165 million in a funding round led by Tiger Global and AlphaWave Global at a $1.6 billion valuation. So DealShare actually began its journey as a WhatsApp group in Jaipur back in 2018 before its four founders decided to launch an app that same year to help their customers in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities buy groceries as a group. Today, DealShare has more than 10 million customers across 100 Indian cities, and they're going to be using these funds to establish an offline store franchise network and to 10x their warehouse space from 2 million square feet to 20 million square feet in the next 12 months to cater to growing demand. Alright, next up in the funding news, B2B marketplace for industrial products Moglix has raised $250 million in a funding round led by AlphaWave Global at a $2.6 billion valuation, which is up from their May of 2021 valuation of $1 billion, meaning that they've more than 2x their valuation in just 8 months. So Moglix sells products across categories like electrical tools and equipment, agricultural and gardening supplies, industrial and construction products, and medical products too, to more than 500,000 SMEs, those are small and medium-sized enterprises, through a network of over 16,000 suppliers. They're going to be using these funds to strengthen their supply chain across the manufacturing and infrastructure categories, to focus on growing their supply chain financing, and also for global expansion. Alright, next up in the funding news, SaaS-based subscription management platform Chargebee has raised $250 million in a funding round led by Tiger Global and Sequoia Capital at a $3.5 billion valuation, which is up from their April of 2021 valuation of $1.4 billion, meaning that they've been able to 2.5x their valuation in 9 months. So Chargebee helps other SaaS-based companies to create and manage their own subscription plans and also to automate their recurring bills and invoices on a single platform. And today, Chargebee is being used by more than 3,000 customers around the world like Freshworks and Calendly and Fujitsu. Alright, next up in the funding news, and this one is for you by the way, Kshitij. Don't worry, we didn't forget about it, we just didn't talk about it in our Web3 news video because we were saving it for this startup news video. And speaking of that guys, by the way, we posted the first episode in a series of videos that we're going to be making on all of the news that's happening in India's Web3 space. So if that sounds interesting to you, we're going to be posting videos on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. and you can find the first one up here. But anyways, moving on to the next funding news item here, upskilling platform Scalar Academy has raised $55 million in a funding round led by Lightrock India at a $710 million valuation. So Scalar Academy was founded in 2019, and they offer upskilling courses to college students and technology professionals to help them secure jobs at leading technology companies. They have more than 15,000 students enrolled at Scalar, and the startup is already operationally profitable. They're going to be using these funds to expand internationally with the United States as the key market. Alright, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. Big thanks to all of our Backstage with Millionaires members now, our unicorns, our decacorns, and our hectacorns. And also, of course, big thanks to this week's sponsor. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Backstage with Millionaires, and I will see you in the next one.